the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's the blockchain spell made of David's got so much to tell.
Hello, GM. Welcome to another episode of the Blockchain Experience. I'm your host, David. On today's episode, we have Roxy, the Director of Operations from Art Blocks. Art Blocks is the leading generative art movement using the blockchain as a canvas, and we actually talk about exactly what that means on the podcast. As you guys probably know, I'm a huge Art Blocks fan, and I think that they're making history, not just in the Web3 and blockchain space, but in the bigger art world. So it's really an honor to have a conversation with them on what they've been doing, what they're doing now, and what they will be doing. But of course, before we get to that conversation, a word from our sponsors. Ledger is the smartest way to secure crypto holdings. Their hardware wallets are trusted by over 4 million customers. Ledger can be used to secure, store, and manage over 1,800 crypto assets. Using the Ledger Live app, you will have a one-stop shop for your crypto needs. Buy, sell, exchange, and grow your assets with Ledger's partners securely and easily. Stop getting your wallet drained. Head over to ledger.metadavideth.com and take self-custody today. Have you ever wanted to display your NFT art in the physical world? Look no further than Token Frame. Token Frame's patent high-quality physical displays start at 10 inches and run all the way up to 55 inches. They're truly built for authenticity. Just sign in with your wallet, connect to Wi-Fi, and cast your NFTs. It's really that simple. And best of all, no subscriptions. Token Frame supports Ethereum, Polygon, and Solana with Tezos on the way soon. It's no wonder they're trusted by OpenSea, SuperRare, Nifty Gateway, and more. Start flexing your NFT art by visiting tokenframe.metadavideth.com. Again, that's tokenframe.metadavideth.com. Roxy from Art Blocks, how are you this morning?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. So I'll tell you guys, I've wanted to have Art Blocks on the podcast for a long time because this is a project that I think not only has had a profound impact on digital art, but I would make the case just like art in general. So we're going to get into all that soon, but can you kick it off with an introduction about yourself, your background, and how you came to join the Art Blocks team, what you do for them?
Absolutely. I'm Roxy Fata. I'm the Director of Operations at Art Blocks. I've been on the team since June, so it is a fresh start, but I had the immense pleasure of knowing the team for quite some time prior. Before Art Blocks, I was COO at a company called Infinite Objects, which also worked with people in the Web3 and NFT space. And so that's how I became aware of Art Blocks and started working with the team a little bit more. Prior to that, I have experience very early in my career, many moons ago in the fashion space. And then I transitioned into the startup space where I was doing a lot of marketing and strategy and operations. So that's a quick bit about me.
Yeah, it looks like you've got a pretty impressive set of credentials there. So let's say for a moment that I'm in the NFT space. I've heard of Art Blocks, but I don't know exactly what it is. I'm just hearing about it. How would you explain it to someone who I wouldn't say is like a crypto newbie, like they're into NFTs, but they just haven't quite delved into the Art Blocks realm yet?
Yes. And I love explaining things on simple terms because that's what resonates with me. And I think we don't do enough of it. But Art Blocks is unique in that we do generative art. And I think at a time where a lot of AI is on people's minds, we're not AI. Generative is different because if you think of an artist using a medium, they're using our technology as a medium. They're creating code. So they are using that as kind of their paintbrush, we would say, and they're creating a bunch of variables about what the art will look like. And so when you purchase the art for the first time, what you get, you're not sure what you will get. All of the art visually looks similar based on the guidelines the artist has created in their code. However, we don't know what the output will be. It's kind of a randomized output. So when you buy it for the first time, you see something that's visually similar to the project, but it is what we call one of X. So it is completely unique. It is part of a bigger project and it looks visually similar to other things, but what you're receiving is completely your own. And I think that's what makes it very special.
There's another component to it that seems pretty interesting to me, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, is this concept of on-chain versus off-chain. And I think a lot of people often get surprised in this space, even the ones that have been in it for a while, to find out that virtually none of the art that they have within their wallet is actually on the blockchain.
Yes.
So can you just tell us a little bit about that aspect of it, that concept of on-chain versus off-chain, and why is that important?
Yeah, so quality is really big to us. Our CEO and founder is an artist himself, Snowfro. He created the project called Chromie Squiggles, which is very well known, and some other projects as well that he's doing that are incredible. And the quality of the work is very important. We want to make sure that a lot of things happen fast in this industry. So a lot of times, even if you get a piece of artwork, that's not actually what's being securely stored. On Art Blocks, we want you to be able to have access to what has created your art. And so what's being stored on chain securely would allow you to go back and recreate the art if anything has ever happened. So that makes it even more secure. If, God forbid, one day Art Blocks isn't around, your asset living on Ethereum, you would be able to access the code that has output the art, so you'll never lose it. And because this industry has been built quickly, sometimes we infer things or we make assumptions that, this is immutable, it's on the blockchain. Our assets actually are, because the kind of map to creating the art is something that you own and have access to. And unfortunately, a lot of other platforms, that's not the case.
I think we can say that it's very likely that if you have an Art Blocks piece, it will outlive you, right?
Yes.
I think that concept is actually so fascinating, because we see it with virtually, whether it's virtual or digital or real, that an asset of any sort has a finite shelf life. So even if I collect baseball cards, I could secure them a whole bunch of different ways, but it's not going to last forever. At some point it's going to degrade, no matter how well it's secured or stored. But with Art Blocks, what I find so compelling is that as long as Ethereum exists, at least current state, maybe who knows what's going to happen in the future if you guys go into different chains or what have you, 500 years from now, but just assume current state, it's Ethereum, that it's going to continue to exist forever. So to me, it's almost like a family heirloom. I legit think that when I purchase something, I have a daughter, I have a newborn that I'm expecting in a few weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So the way I'm looking at this is, when I buy an Art Blocks piece, it's special because I am actually thinking about what's going to happen with this after, I pass. Who's going to get it? How am I going to store it? Have you talked to other collectors who kind of have that frame of mind, or do you see it more as from the signals that you're getting that it's more just kind of a purchase in the moment type of a thing?
Well, we want it. We're in it for the art, right? We want people to have an emotional response. It's a very interesting space where a lot of people came in and they were buying speculatively, but we really are here to serve people who love what they're seeing. They want to collect it. They want to experience it in their physical space. They want to keep it. They want to pass it down. And so excuse me, that's exactly how we're thinking about it. We want it to have longevity. We want it to be something that you can pass down, that is secure. And yeah, we really love that the NFT space has been so crazy, but we have artists who have incredible processes, and it's really about the art. We want this to be the new era of contemporary art, of the traditional art space kind of merging with this technology. So that's important to us.
Yeah. So speaking of longevity and artists and collections, so I understand that you guys have two main collections. It used to be more a few months back, maybe like almost like a year ago. So there's the curated and then there's the presents. What's the difference in terms of how they're categorized by art blocks and, the amount of vetting that goes into each one?
Yeah, so we have an incredible art team, and they are kind of in charge of steering the ship. But we also have a curation board. So they're an entity of amazing artists and curators and people within the space that help us make these decisions. And our curated projects go through that kind of vetting system. There's a lot of different critiques, and for all of our artists, we provide a lot of space to get feedback. And so curated is kind of that highest level of going through the process, applying, getting feedback from people that have a lot of experience in the industry. And so that's kind of how we look at the difference between curated and presents.
For presents, is there a vetting process as well in terms of vetting and then kind of getting that feedback that you just described?
Yes, absolutely. We have very white glove processes with our artists. We just find that with presents, it's more for a lot of emerging artists, and that it's also very high caliber artists. It's just curated is a little bit more intensive. But when you're an artist releasing on Art Blocks, your work is vetted. You have a format to speak about your work, to get feedback about it from people who are very well versed in the industry. So both of them are pretty high touch processes for the artists as well.
How long is that process of kind of getting feedback? I'm just kind of curious what happens behind the curtains. Is it just like, hey, I'm an artist, and let's say like I'm in contention for being like having my piece curated. Is that kind of like a 1 week type process, or is it like a couple months that goes into that, or is it like half a year? What does that look like behind the curtains?
It does vary. I think that on average, I would have to confirm with the art team, but I think it's about a couple months. But there's also times when artists need a bit more time. So it's definitely case by case, depending on what the project is.
If I'm an artist who wants to come on Art Blocks, do I need to be technical, or do you guys have a pathway for non-technical? Because you mentioned earlier that it's code, it's generative. So is that like a potential barrier to entry?
It is, to be honest. We're doing a lot of work to create resources and education to help artists come on and test it out. But right now, yes, there are a lot of technical components to creating the art. And we hope to be able to help people that haven't made generative art before kind of onboard into the space as much as we can.
And if I am an artist, do I apply, or do you guys kind of tap people on the shoulder and say like, hey, come on board, or how does that look like? And I imagine it probably has evolved since like inception when Art Blocks first started, versus like today. So I'm kind of curious as to how that looks like, how it used to be, maybe if you can riff on that a little bit, and how it is now.
It's still a application process. So everyone puts in their application and it goes through the artist pipeline. And again, that's all managed by our art team. So everyone does put an application in.
All right. So shifting gears a little bit. So we talked about artists, and I want to ask those questions because I know that we have a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are artists, and they have varying degrees of technical background. So just wanted to kind of give some perspective for our artist friends as to like, what the potential pathway could be for the ones that might be super technical, maybe. And I know we have like a lot of artists who are on FX Hash, which I'm sure you're familiar with. In fact, there's a lot of, I think, crossover for people that started off on FX Hash and then went over to Art Blocks. So I kind of just wanted to kind of put a spotlight on that. So now shifting gears, kind of as a collector, putting the hat that I'm more familiar with because I'm more of a collector than an artist. Actually, I am a collector, not an artist. Let's not qualify with more of. So I am a collector. And I'm a huge collector of Art Blocks. Love the project. How does someone who is new get started? Because there's like a whole bunch of different collections. And so Are there like resources that they could look at or read up on or videos? I know that you guys do have like a YouTube channel, After Mints, I think, hosted by Ponyo. So can you talk a little bit about that for those people, like that demographic that I talked about earlier, that, all right, now they've listened to this podcast, they're sold on Art Blocks. They go to artblocks.io. They also go to, like, let's say OpenSea or Rarible, whatever platform of choice. And they're saying there's a whole bunch of different collections out there, and there's varying degrees of floor prices, anything from 0.03 to like triple digit ETH. How do they discern and how do they get started and kind of make sense of it?
I mean, I think that we would always encourage people to find the art or the project or the artist that speaks to them most. And there's a great way just to browse things that already exist. Maybe that speaks to you, or maybe look through upcoming projects. So going to artblocks.io is great. We also have a lot of artist profiles. If you want to learn more about the artists, you can check out our Twitter or Instagram to see about upcoming projects. I think the difference is a little bit like, if you want to participate in a new release, something that's upcoming, you can be the original person to what we call mint a piece, which is buy it for the first time. And what's pretty magical about that experience is you don't know what it's going to look like. If you're a person that would prefer to see the art in its completion and then purchase it, you can also browse the art on artblocks.io. We've also set up a secondary marketplace to ensure secondary royalties are paid out, and we will direct you how to buy an already existing piece that's already been minted that maybe you feel more secure in buying because you know what it's going to look like. So those are the two different kind of experiences that you could have, but I think it's really about browsing, learning about the artists. A lot of the projects as well have charitable components. So maybe there's a particular charity that you feel compelled to support in your purchase. And there's a ton of content, like you said. We have After Dinner Mints. We also have a lot of spaces where we speak to artists before their release. So there's a lot of ways to learn about things that might be important to you when you're purchasing some art.
I think you highlighted a really important component there for the newbies, because you can actually go to artblocks.io and purchase. I think that's a really important thing to do for a newbie, because Art Blocks is such a well-known collection out there. And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of rogue type pieces out there that might mimic Art Blocks or replicate it, fakes and that sort of thing.
Yes.
And if you go to artblocks.io and you're purchasing there, you're doing two things. One, you're ensuring that you're getting something that's authentic. And two, to your point, is that you're ensuring that the royalties are being paid to the artist.
Yes, if you're buying a secondary piece. So there's different experiences. But as you say, to come to artblocks.io and use that as where you start to make your purchase is definitely the safest way to do it, because unfortunately, as is common in this space, there might be some less reliable ways to do it. And coming to our site is the best way to go about it.
Right. So if you see like a Fidenza below 0.02 ETH or something, like raise a little bit, it should raise a few flags there that there might be something going on. How often does Art Blocks have a drop? So you have the Presents collection and then curation. What's the cadence for that? Is it like a weekly thing? Is it a bi-weekly thing? And I imagine the curated ones come out less frequent because they're curated. Mm-hmm. They come out less frequently than the Presents. So what does that look like? Or is there like a target that you guys try to hit?
Yeah, I mean, through the end of the year, we have about at least one, if not more, per week. So there's a lot of good variety. We have, if I just look at the calendar, it's about 2 per week in Q4. So we have a good amount of upcoming projects that you can look through and decide what appeals to you the most.
Are there any like future plans that you guys can speak of coming up?
Well, we're really excited about what we offer right now on artblocks.io, and then how that's powered in itself is something that we're able to work with partners with. So our engine product is essentially the technology that powers artblocks.io. And so we've used that with a bunch of different partners like Bright Moments, and we work with Pace on different releases. We work with artists who have their own sites for generative art. And so we're very much excited about taking that. And again, that one of X technology, which allows a partner to create outputs that are completely unique, that are part of a bigger collection. And when we think about how this applies to physical goods and Web 2 economies, that is what gets us very excited. I think that we're in an era where consumers are a little bit oversaturated. They see content, they see the same ads, they think, oh, if I buy this, am I going to walk by someone on the street who's wearing this? Is this item in my house? Is my friend going to have it? People want to be individuals. They want to have this identity. We've seen in the Web3 space how interesting that is. If you have an art piece that becomes your avatar, it becomes this emblematic thing that is distinctly yours, but also connects you to a broader community. And so the technology that Art Blocks Engine provides allows this to come to life in so many different ways with different brands, different projects, different artists. And so that's something that we're very excited about. How can we take this technology and create outputs that you can put on a one-of-a-kind t-shirt, a one-of-a-kind hat? How can you have a high design good like ceramics or something that was created by a generative output and then 3D printed in clay? All of those things kind of are a new era in consumer behavior, a new bar to what consumers can expect in terms of things that are custom, bespoke on another level. And so that is what we're very excited about in terms of how the technology will evolve.
Just recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, about a month ago, the event at Marfa.
Yes.
What are some of the interesting activations, kind of similar to what you just described there, that you actually saw play out?
I think the thing we got incredible feedback on was we had artist activation. So it has now become a yearly tradition this year for the third year in a row. We had our Art Blocks Marfa weekend, and it was about 2 days of programming in Marfa, which is, for those of you that haven't been, it was my first time, not easy to get to. So we had a very passionate and devoted crowd who was interested in art and technology and even finance coming together in the middle of the desert. And we had a ton of artists, curators, collectors, people that were just curious about the space. It's a very collaborative and wonderful community gathering. And like I was saying, we had a day where we had artist activations where they were doing everything from creating 3D spaces with like VR goggles to creating physicals. We had stitchables doing unique embroidery for people. So it was nice. It felt kind of like a maker's fair or art fair where people were coming up with interesting ways to have generative outputs. And I think that was a space in which people could really feel how new things could come about with generative art. In addition to that, we just had amazing panels and conversations, and I think that was also exciting. But I think the thing that you could tangibly see how people are taking the tech and being creative with it was really fun.
Do you see that tangible part being a potential pathway to get non-crypto or non-Web3 people into the space, because it kind of piques their curiosity? Perhaps they're wearing like a sweater with a chromey squiggle on it, which is kind of like an unusual piece. So that kind of garners some attention and some questions. Are those conversations that you guys are having at Art Blocks and trying to like have that funnel and then funnel them down into becoming enthusiasts, collectors, perhaps maybe even artists if they're technical? So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's very important to us, especially because we really believe in the art side. We think if you're compelled to buy something, you want to experience it in different ways and it being physical. So it's something that we have explored and we will continue to explore. We hear from artists that it's important to them. But I think also it's just about, I think that with Web3 in general, sometimes the problem has been that we talk too much about it technically. So how can we make it really easy to understand and say like, hey, this thing that you're holding, no one else has. It would belong just to you and other people would have something similar. And I think that speaking about it in that way is amazing. Another awesome thing that happened in Marfa was a project called Marfa Mesh, which each of the attendees had a lanyard with like a little key card on it, and they would scan each other's and create a generative artwork that was unique to who they tapped, when they scanned it, what location they were in. And those types of activations where we can get people to participate without having to know what's happening under the hood is what we're really passionate about, to just really get people to understand the potential of generative art, the beauty of it, and how it can bring people together. And
I'm going to ask like a little bit of an under the weed in the weeds type question. So we talked about the Art Blocks engine, and one of the users of that is prohibition.art, right?
that's true. Yes.
Yes, and they've gotten some attention, and I know that Snowfro had a drop there in tandem with Jordan,
Yes.
who
Art and
is
craft.
one of the Hearts and Craft, which has been immensely popular, and I don't know how many of those tokens I have, because not only am I got my claim because I'm in Art Blocks, but I'm in a bunch of other DAOs, some of the ones that you talked about. Then in addition to that, I minted a few, and then I saw a bunch on secondary that I liked, and I know a lot of collectors feel the same way. So anyways, going back on track, I think one thing that they added that's, I think, helped with the on-ramping process is the fact that now you can use a credit card to purchase.
Yes.
Are you guys thinking about that too? Or is that a conversation that you guys are having at all? Can you speak to that? Or
Absolutely. We want to make everything that we are doing as accessible as possible. So we're always exploring ways to make that happen. And so whether it's credit card or onboarding with wallet stuff, we want to make this something that everyone can participate in. We value Web3 technology, the blockchain. We think that generative art is so unique. And so however we can make it as easy for people to participate in, that is our goal.
Right now, so we talked about Marfa, and to your point, it's a little bit difficult to get to. I was planning actually on going, and I RSVP'd, but then I had a last minute trip to go back home to California to see my parents. So unfortunately, I missed it. So I had to live vicariously through the Twitter feeds and other things and updates from you guys, which were amazing. But having said that, does Art Blocks have events outside of that people can attend and, participate in?
Absolutely. We've had a tremendous presence in the space, and we're working with partners that are helping to kind of prove out some of these concepts, make things easier, make onboarding easier. So we have a lot of community events that if you follow us on socials, you can kind of figure out where those are going to be. This year too, we're going to do a small activation during Miami Art Week. We'll be at NFT Paris. We'll be at South by Southwest. We'll definitely be at NFT NYC. So I feel following us on socials is the best way to know what we're up to in that regard. But we love to be in person with our community as much as possible. And yes, not everyone can come to Marfa, but that doesn't mean you can't be with us in person in other ways.
Yeah, for sure. So folks, make sure that you follow Art Blocks on Twitter, turn on notifications. Do have a YouTube channel. There's a whole bunch of different outlets out there. There's even a newsletter. Subscribe to that.
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone to do all those things because there are a lot of interesting things going on, whether it's like artist spotlights, a drop. And to Roxy's point, and I'm a big advocate of this, and I talk about it all the time on the podcast, is that when you are starting to collect, just make sure that you're purchasing what you vibe with and with money that you can afford to spend. And if you do that, you're going to have a great time and you're going to love collecting Art Blocks and all the tokens. So just remember those two things. And yeah, you'll be super satisfied. Roxy, appreciate you so much for making the time to come on the podcast and talk about Art Blocks and talk about the pathways for both our collectors and our artists and the different events that you have happening, not just across the country, but across the world, because you've talked about some other activations happening out there in Paris and some other places too. So appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
And that was our conversation with Roxy from Art Blocks. What I really like about Art Blocks is a few things. I like the fact that the art is actually stored on the blockchain, so it ensures its preservation for as long as Ethereum is around. And as we touched on in the podcast, having that longevity makes me treat all of my Art Blocks pieces as family heirlooms. So I'm already thinking ahead about how I'm going to be passing those pieces down to my children. The second thing I really like about Art Blocks is they've done a great job of making the art easily discoverable. What I mean by that is you can go to their website and you can see what's already been dropped. And if you see something that you like, you can go back on their website and just buy it off the secondary market. And of course, royalties will be honored. And you could also see what the pieces, the collections that are coming up, what they look like, and you can mint those, set your schedule accordingly. I like how they have Twitter spaces leading up to those drops. They have a YouTube channel that you can follow, and they even have in-person events, and I've been to a few of them. So I think they've really done a great job of that audience activation. And of course, I think the aesthetics are just amazing. There's a good diversity in terms of collections. Some of them have like geometric patterns. There's even a curated piece, Nimbuds by Brian Brinkman, former guest on this show, that look like PFPs. And there's animated pieces. There's ones that have sound. So they've done a great job of bringing that diversity into the art. So please, folks, I'm asking this as a fellow blockchain enthusiast. I urge you guys to check them out and follow what they're doing, because they're leading an entire movement that we will read about in history books. So it has been an amazing time. Really appreciate you all. With that, I'll be signing off. So until next time, folks.
Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's the blockchain spell. Made of David's got so much to tell. Bringing you the latest news without fail. Hey, decentralized and secure. It's been making way. You can't tamper with data. It's not the same old way. From finance to art, it's bringing all the trust. The blockchain experience. It's a must. Hey, welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's not just for the big boys, it's for everyone. It's a new way of doing things. It's second to none. So jump on board, join the revolution. It's a blockchain experience. It's a movement. Give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up for the blockchain experience. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. It's the blockchain experience. It's the blockchain experience. It's the blockchain experience. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Give it up, give it up, give it up for Major David. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content to the audience. Welcome to the blockchain experience. Bringing dope content. audience.